Welcome back for another math lesson with Mrs. Denowden. Today we're doing lesson 7-5, fractions on a number line, part 1. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit of a warm-up. So if you have a whiteboard and a marker, or if you have just a piece of paper and a pencil, that'd be great if you can grab those things right now. Let's go ahead and look at our 4 pictures together. All right, go ahead and look at each of these and try to figure out how much of the circle or the rectangle is shaded. Think about how many pieces are shaded out of the total number of pieces present. So let's go ahead and start with the upper left-hand corner. Correct answer is, all right, going right beneath that to the dark green. Going on to the red in the circle. For these, a tip that I always give is look at half of the circle. How many pieces are in half of the circle? Now double that. So this one would be 12 total pieces, and we can see that 2 are unshaded, which means that 10 are shaded. And then our last one, this one you could do 2 different ways. You could definitely say 4 out of 8, or some of you might recognize an equivalent fraction there, 1/2. Great job. Okay, for our math, the message today, I want you to look at this class number line, and I would like you to think about what would be some numbers that would fit on this number line that come between 0 and 1. So nothing bigger than 1, nothing greater than 1, but what kind of numbers can you think of that would fit between 0 and 1? I'll pause for a second for you to go ahead and think about some of those, and then we'll talk about it. All right, the first one that I can think of is I know what goes here. Does anyone else know what number that goes here? You are right. I would label this as 1/2. Hopefully that gets you thinking. Maybe you can think what might go there, or what might even go here. Perhaps you could think of another one as well. Maybe you put 1 here, and maybe you put that as 1/3. Or maybe you were thinking, I know about 2/3, and I know 2/3 is going to go right here. Hopefully you had at least one of those that you were thinking of. All right, we're going to go ahead and open our math journal to page 229, and I'm going to fill out this entire page with you today, so make sure you have a pencil and you're following along with us. If you look up top, you will see that on our first number line, you can see that that's demonstrating 1 whole. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into what numbers come between 0 and 1. So that's our entire number line, 0 to 1. And these other number lines are going to be similar as well. So when we're talking about halves, what number would we put as the denominator? Well, we know that when we're talking about halves, we're usually talking about 2 equal pieces. So we're going to go ahead and put 0 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And over here, the same as 1 whole would be 2 halves. So we're going to go ahead and put a 2 here and a 2 here. Now, if I drew a line right in the middle and I split it in half, I would label that with 1/2. So go ahead and do that right now. All right, next one, fourths. We know that if we're over here in the 0 part, we're talking about having 0/4. So go ahead and put that in. And if we're going all the way to the other end, we would call that 1 whole is the same as 4/4. All right, we're going to split this up just like we did before. We're going to cut it in half. Now we have 2 pieces. but we want 4 pieces, so we're going to cut each of those halves in half. If we know that our first one is 0/4, we know that our second one is going to be 1/4, and this one over here is going to be 2/4, and then our last one over here is going to be 3/4, and then we have 4/4, which is the same as 1/2. We're going to do the same kind of thing with 8ths. Let's first try to split it up into 8 pieces, kind of like what we did yesterday with our fraction strips. First, I'm going to cut it in half. Then I'm going to cut each of those in half. So now I have 4ths. But if I want 8ths, I have to cut each of those in half. Try to do it really well with equally spaced divisions. All right, all the way over here, this is going to be 0/8. And then we're going to just keep going right on up with the fractions. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and the same as 1/2 would be 8/8. Awesome. All right. Now we're moving into thirds. And like I said yesterday, thirds are just kind of tricky to divide up because it's not as simple as just splitting it in half and splitting that in half and all those kinds of things. So for thirds, we kind of have to just be careful and divide it up into 3 pieces. And if it doesn't work right away, erase it, try it again. So like if I put my line here and I'm like, I don't know about that. That doesn't look very accurate. I can just erase it and fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and make that right about here and right about here. And if I like it, I'll leave it. But remember, if I don't, erase and fix it. Okay, go ahead and do yours. And then let's label. 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, and 1/2 is 3/3. Okay, so for 6th, we're going to do the same thing, but thankfully we already divided our thirds up, so we can just kind of drop down the lines, like from above, and then divide each of those in half. Because remember, 3 is half of 6. Okay, so we have 0/6, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6. All right, looks pretty great. Let's pause here for a second, and I want us to be looking at here, can we find any equivalent fractions? So fractions that look different, but they cover the same amount of space. I'm going to switch my pen to red, and I want us to look at 1/2. When I look at 1/2, I can see that there are lots of fraction equivalents to 1/2. I see 2/4, I see 4/8, and I even see 3/6. Maybe you can find some other ones. I'm going to switch to green. I see that 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. I also see 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. Switching to yellow, I see that 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6, and I see that 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. So there's a little bit of some equivalent fraction work. All right, for page 230 in your math journal, you might want to go back a little bit in this video because I just talked to you guys about equivalent fractions. And so what you can do in here is you can first go ahead and draw. If you like the fraction circles, go ahead and draw circles. If you like the fraction strips, go ahead and do those. I really like the circles a lot. So what I would do first is draw 2 circles maybe that are the same size or the best of your ability. Hopefully better than my wavy circles today. And then go ahead and show 2/3. And then you can go ahead and show what that looks like when you would shade that. And so I'm going to go ahead and do 2/3, and let's see, 1/3, 2/3, and then you can go ahead and show 2/3 on the other one as well, but as an equivalent fraction. So think, what other fraction is going to have that same amount of space shaded? And then down below, you can do the same kind of thing. I would go ahead and draw 2 circles. I'm not really looking for any more than like one fraction that's equivalent to it. So go ahead and we're partitioning it into 4 equal pieces because our denominator tells us that we need 4, and then our numerator tells us that we need to have 3 of those pieces shaded. So I'm going to do that right now. 1, 2, 3, and I have 3/4 of it shaded. So go ahead and look back. What other fraction can you think of that would have the same amount of space shaded? All right, math boxes time. Go ahead and do number 1 for sure. Remember, you're going to come up with 2 multiplication facts and 2 division facts here. You need to put in the missing factor before you get started. Over here, we have a little story problem. Make sure that you're reading to get the important information. There's all this workspace that you can fill in as well. Drawing 3 equivalent fractions to 1/2. You're going to do great on that. And then in this next one, order of operations, remember, underline the part that should be done first. Do not add parentheses. We've been talking a lot about that. And then we have, okay, for number 5, we have Trish has 3 bags of apples. Each bag has 4 apples. Trish gives 7 apples away. How many apples does she have left? So the thing we need to figure out first is, how many apples does she start with? We know she has 3 bags of 4 apples. So we know that we want to do this part first, 3 bags of 4 apples. And then the next step is that she gives away 7 apples. So we are going to select this one because we know that's the order we want to do that in. I'm going to have you figure out the answer on your own. Go ahead for this next one. You're going to do estimation right here, and you are going to use this as your problem. Figure out which one of these is the correct answer, and remember, does my answer make sense? Check your estimate to your answer and fill in the unit box. All right, I'm going to turn to the homework next to give you some tips on that. All right, here we go with the home link. I think this one's going to go really well for you. You can look back in the video if you need any tips or things like that, but you're going to go ahead and label how far did the triangle move. So really, the question that it's asking you is, what would this fraction be? And the question that this one is asking you is, what would that fraction be? And then down here, we are talking about missing fractions, so go ahead and fill those in. Remember, on a common thing on all of these is that the denominator is going to be the same as the other fractions that you see in that number line. And then down below, fill in the unit box, and it says solve, show your work. Please show me your work. I want to see it. There's so much room in this bottom section. So So make sure that I see it and do it on the front side, and then you don't have to scan the back side as well. All right, good luck everybody. You're gonna do great. Have a great day. Bye.